Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking a look at just one source you sent over. It's a transcript excerpt from the YouTube channel, Occupy Democrats.
That's right. And our goal here is pretty straightforward. Just guide you through what this specific piece of content says. It focuses on public statements Donald Trump made about his alleged role in some international peace deals.
So we'll pull out the main claims, as they're presented right here in this document.
Yeah, and look at the counterpoints it brings up, too.
And try to understand the implications and concerns this source is raising about making public comments on foreign policy stuff.
Definitely. And just to be clear, we're just your guides through this source material. We're showing you what it contains, the points it makes, not, taking sides or endorsing anything ourselves.
Absolutely. Just what's on the page here.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's dive in. The source starts with a kind of general observation about Donald Trump's public statements.
Right. It mentions they often have what it calls bluster or maybe enhancing the truth.
And it says, while sometimes maybe that's seen as amusing, the source feels it gets pretty serious when you're talking foreign policy.
Yeah, especially with potential conflict, what it bluntly calls war. That's where the source says the tone shifts.
Okay, so it sets that scene, and then
it jumps right into a specific example. Something it says happened just recently, just in the last month, relative to the video.
The India and Pakistan situation.
Hmm.
The source quotes Trump claiming his administration helped broker a full and immediate ceasefire.
And he apparently called it a permanent one between them.
Wow, okay. And did the source mention how he claimed to have done this?
It did. It points to him saying he used trade leverage. There's a direct quote in the transcript. Come on, we're going to do a lot of trade with you guys. Let's stop it. If you stop it, we're doing trade. If you don't stop it, we're not going to do any trade.
Pretty direct approach, as quoted there.
Seems like it. And the source also notes he praised the leaders involved.
Right. It says here he called the leadership of India and Pakistan something like unwavering powerful.
Yeah, but then, and this is key to the source's structure, it immediately presents a different take.
Okay. From who?
From its own reporting, citing an Indian leader. This leader is quoted saying the negotiation was actually done directly between the militaries of the two countries.
Oh, interesting. So a different mechanism described there.
Exactly. And this leader, according to the source, said Trump played a role, but maybe it might not be the whole story.
Implying there's more to it than the initial claim suggested.
That seems to be the implication presented by the source, and it adds this detail that the agreement came after just a few days of fighting.
So the timing and the main actors are described differently by this second voice the source includes.
Precisely. So that's the first case study laid out. After that, the source moves on to something it calls breaking news at the time.
Okay, what was that?
A claim involving Iran and Israel.
Yes. This is where the source seemed particularly concerned based on language.
It definitely ramps up. It highlights a statement Trump made on Truth Social. The quote is, "Iran and Israel should make a deal, and we'll make a deal just like I got India and Pakistan to make."
So drawing a direct parallel to the previous example.
Right. And the source notes he brought up the trade idea again, using trade with the U.S. as the carrot.
And mentioning leaders again?
Yeah, similar language, referencing two excellent leaders who would bring reason, cohesion, and sanity into the talks. Very much like the India-Pakistan description the source pointed out.
And the source also mentioned he said something about meetings happening.
It did. It includes his line that many calls and meetings now taking place for this potential deal.
Okay. So those are the two big examples the source focuses on.
Primarily, yes. But it also mentions that in that same social media post, Trump apparently touched on other conflicts, too.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, the transcript mentions Serbia and Kosovo.
Okay. What did he claim there, according to the source?
Claimed he stopped a long-time conflict that was ready to break out into war.
And the source includes that bit about Biden.
Yeah, it specifically notes the parenthetical remark where Trump claimed Biden hurt the prospects, but that he, Trump, would fix it. That's included in the source's account of the post.
Gotcha. Any others mentioned?
Egypt and Ethiopia, over the big dam on the Nile.
Right, I remember that dispute.
The source quotes him saying peace exists there because of my intervention and claiming it will stay that way.
Okay, so quite a few claims packed into one statement based on this transcript.
Seems so. And the source also pulls out a couple more general lines from that same post.
Right.
Like, I never get credit for anything, but that's okay that people understand.
Uh-huh.
And then the sign off, make the Middle East great again.
Okay, so that's the rundown of the claims as presented in this source. What about the source's own analysis? Where does it go from there?
Right. So after laying all that out, the transcript shifts to presenting the source's perspective, its own analysis and concerns.
And it starts pretty strongly, saying Trump hates it when the truth comes out about these claims.
Yeah, that's the assertion made in the source. And the language, like you noted earlier, it gets quite pointed.
How so?
It frames these public statements, especially the Iran-Israel one, as him starting to whine and cry publicly on Truth Social about what he deserves.
Whine and cry out there.
And then it labels this behavior not just nauseous, but significantly dangerous.
Dangerous. Okay, that's a strong word in this context. How does the source explain why it sees this as dangerous?
Well, it makes a distinction first. It acknowledges, look, sometimes the U.S. government has to keep things secret. You know, intelligence community stuff, CIA, FBI, ATF, that's normal, sensitive work.
Sure, that makes sense. Standard procedure for national security.
Right. But the source argues putting stuff out publicly that it characterizes as abject BS.
Okay.
And constantly trying to seem more involved or more influential than maybe you really were. That sets what it calls an extraordinarily dangerous precedent.
A precedent for what? How is it dangerous, according to the source?
It argues it's dangerous for how other countries deal with the U.S. Like, it could confuse things, maybe undermine the actual official diplomatic work that's happening behind the scenes.
Ah, I see. So the worry presented here is that these kinds of public, possibly inaccurate, personal claims could interfere with the sort of delicate machinery of international relations.
That's exactly the concern articulated in this source. It sums it up by framing the danger as happening when Donald's ego gets in the big way of what is best for America. That's the source's bottom line on this.
Okay. So if we're wrapping our heads around what this one source is telling us, we've seen it lay out specific claims about brokering peace deals, big ones.
Yep. India, Pakistan, the suggestion for Iran, Israel, others mentioned too.
And then it offers a pretty critical analysis highlighting what it sees as a clash between these public statements and the messy, complex reality of foreign policy.
Yeah, the source is definitely raising flags about, how accurate public declarations are versus what's really happening on the ground.
And it seems very focused on the potential fallout when high-profile people make public claims about really sensitive global issues.
Especially, as the source suggests, if those claims might not line up perfectly with the facts or the official processes. That's the core tension it explores.
What really stands out here, thinking about the source's structure,
Yeah.
it presented Trump's claim, then immediately brought in that Indian leader's counterpoint.
Right. That contrast was central to its argument about the India-Pakistan case.
So considering that point the source makes about these conflicting accounts popping up publicly, how does that affect things for us, for the public, trying to understand these incredibly complex international conflicts?
Well, it certainly makes it harder, doesn't it? If you're getting different stories from different players involved, figuring out the ground truth becomes really challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads to maybe a final thought to chew on based on what this source presented.
Okay.
If you have powerful figures making these big public claims about international events, and then other parties involved dispute those claims, again, publicly.
Yeah.
What does that dynamic do to public trust? Not just in the individuals, but in our ability to actually grasp what's happening globally. Something to think about.